What the f***?
Yes.
Your guy can't take a nap?
He wasn't in the trailer. He was on the property.
What did you do to my cow? Welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its continued influence today. Hey, everybody, my name is Will. Joining me, as always, are my friends and co-hosts, Kat and John. Hello, Kat and John.
Hello, friendly co-hosts.
Hello, Kat and Will.
And hello to everybody who's joined us here on Facebook and or YouTube Live. Hey, on today's show, we're going to review current news stories related to 1980s media, including... Gedde Watanabe is not offended by his character in 16 Candles. A country legend has released an AI song. I may not hate AI. We may have found some wiggle room for AI.
Oh.
Being famous, it turns out, in the 1980s was harder than it is today. Gen Z doesn't want to work for a job, and the source of a 1980s mystery song has been identified.
And I'm surprised that Kat didn't already know where that song came from.
You know, I was thinking that too.
I was mystified. Yeah, reading about this. Why did I not know?
Teaser. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Why did I not hear about this?
Nice teaser. All right. Talking about teasing. All right. Hey, let's get started. We don't want anybody gooning out there, because I just learned what that means in one of these articles. That's related to the same story. So we won't tease you any further. Instead, we'll get started on 1980s news. You know, kids, they've all got their words. We had our words.
We did.
Although I feel like kids today, and I know I sound like, I
don't like everything the way it is now compared to the way it used to be.
But
Pill, both ways.
it does seem in some sense, and I wonder if this is part and parcel with that sort of, trajectory that society seems to be on, where it's easier to make shit up than look stuff up. That kids today seem to create a lot more words for things instead of using the words that already exist. And there's plenty to choose from.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and unfortunately, you know, Oxford and Webster's are more than happy to oblige these days. It used to take decades for a word to be in use, it seemed, before they'd enter it. Now, I'm sure gooning is in there. You don't even have to look it up on the Urban Dictionary.
I only just figured out what on fleek means, and now they've moved on past that. So.
Oh, that's so passé.
John, not too long ago, I asked my daughter what that meant, and she said, no one says that anymore. So I still don't know. I gotta find someone. I gotta talk to you later about it.
It's best you don't know then.
Oh, is that
you might
right?
inadvertently use it.
Hey, first up,
yourself.
Per Cinema Blend, Gedde Watanabe is not offended by Long Duck Dong. We've been talking about many movies that came out in 1984, how they're celebrating their 40th anniversary this year, and 16 Candles is among them. In fact, I think we can fairly say that Japanese-American actor Gedde Watanabe was pivotal in making that movie as enduring as it's been for the decades, because he had some really memorable moments and lines, although, unfortunately, they may not have aged very well. In fact, it turns out that was his film debut, playing the... a Chinese foreign exchange student, Long Duck Dong, who had was living with the grandparents of Molly Ringwald's protagonist's character, Sam.
Yes.
If you don't recall, even though the fact that most of them are lines that are like very quotable and often quoted in connection with this movie, I'll just remind you some of the things that may not pass for, cinema these days. For various reasons, and probably for good reason.
For cinema.
Here you go. A gong sounds whenever his name is mentioned or he enters the scene.
Right.
Even though he's Japanese-American, he dons a thick Chinese accent to play the character. He also makes clumsy attempts at saying American catchphrases. And throughout the film, the grandparents that I mentioned, they're, making fun of him or laughing at him or ordering him around as if he's some, a servant of theirs. And despite the character being an offensive, stereotypical character, in retrospect, Watanabe told People, the magazine, not just, hey, you want to hear something? I was in this movie.
Anyone who will listen.
Not just random people.
I'm not offended.
I just want my order. That's what they say to him. Anyway, he told People magazine that he didn't feel offended when he took the role. The actor explained that, quote, frankly, I was like, this is a good job. and I'm going to get paid more doing 1 week in this movie than I did for all the years I was in theater. Didn't really occur to me that that was a stereotype because there wasn't really anything out there for Asian actors at the time. It was just so scarce.
Right.
So I didn't think it was stereotypical or racist. Isn't that weird? End quote.
I'm sure he was just excited. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I have a job. I'm getting paid.
And I did,
Yeah.
in one of my attempts to make this show seem serious and deep, when I talked to Paul Sun-Young Lee, I don't know, a year or so ago, a couple of years ago, this star of Kim's Convenience, and he's in The Mandalorian. He was just in the Avatar, the live action Avatar. I asked him about this idea, and he actually said it. Look, he said he didn't know or talk to Gedde Watanabe about this, but he said, I understand why he would do it. It's hard to get work. And if it's the difference between playing the only role available to an Asian American at the time,
Right.
or not eating, I'll take the job. So anyway, so there you go. Anyway, but on the other hand, Watanabe did praise somewhat John Hughes, who wrote and directed this film in his directorial debut, that he did seem to at least try to go against some stereotypes. I mean, come on. There's no, what balances that out?
Which ones?
Well, this is what he gave us.
Which ones did he not use?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he said he does pair him with in a relationship with an athletic teen girl that he meets at the school dance. Now that's also played for laughs, though, right? I mean,
That's a weak defense. You can't offend somebody. And go, well, hey, at least I didn't do this.
Yeah.
It's like, when I read this article, I thought to myself, I'm sure someone will be offended on his behalf, though. It's fine. You don't have to be offended. Someone will take care of that for you, and they'll feel bad on your behalf, because that's not enough anymore to not be offended. Someone else can be vicariously or something. I don't know what's up with that. The world.
I don't know that this wasn't playing. There's probably some way of describing this, right? It kind of plays into the stereotype, the fact that they juxtapose these two together. He's shorter,
Yes.
Asian. She's taller, not Asian. She has enormous bosoms that he's resting his head between, pillows. I mean,
Right.
it's the contrast of those two that's funny. So I don't know. He's being kind. Of course, obviously, look, Hughes gave him his big break, right? So,
Hell, I'd have played that part if it was paying.
right, I know. Watanabe is also grateful that this character, from his perspective, it had a positive outcome because it's sparked these conversations that we're having about Asian representation and is a part of these movements to, improve that aspect of Hollywood. And recently, as you all know, they have made some strides in that regard. In 2023, we had Academy Awards given to Michelle Yeoh and Kiwi Kwan and their movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, for Best Picture. And lately, there's not a ton, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so streaming shows that have Asian casts, like Squid Game, Shogun, Beef, some others.
Yeah. I think it's great that it's just part of the conversation. It was part of a process leading up to where we are. Not great, not ideal, but important to acknowledge. Maybe that's not the way to do things.
Karen says, I didn't see 16 Candles until the early 2000s. I know Gedde as a nurse on ER first. Karen, how did you avoid seeing 16 Candles for so long? That's fascinating to me. Maybe you're just not a John Hughes fan.
How could you possibly not watch some seminal film from the 80s and get harassed about it?
Right, exactly.
Even I saw it.
Inconceivable.
Oh,
I
Karen.
know. Oh, now you know we need to have a watch party, right? Karen, I'm sure she'd willingly watch 16 Candles, and anybody else who has missed any of those 80s movies that you're, suggesting, John, would gladly do the same, I'm sure. Hey, in other 1980s news, as we read on masslive.com, a country music icon has released a new song with AI. Now, if I just said that much to you and you didn't know anything else about this, would you be skeptical?
I'd be curious.
Yeah, I'd be curious. Yeah, I don't have the hatred for AI, or perhaps I guess maybe I don't know as much as you do about it to be as upset about it as I am. I use it semi-regularly, and I feel like it's so imperfect yet that you can kind of spot it still. So it'll get to the point where you can't. But at the moment, I'm like, oh, I like what they did with that. That's curious. But like Kat, I'd be curious.
But yeah, I'm inherently skeptical. Now, I'll tell you now, recently, I don't know if you guys have come across this in any of your streaming, but I know on TikTok, these get served to me a lot. There's a couple of them. One's called like Obscurest Vinyl, and one is called like called something else, Lost Records or something like that. And what they are, these two artists who create songs using AI. Now, one of them I know about a little bit better. And what he does is he actually writes the lyrics and then uses AI to create the music and the vocals. And they're made to sound like records. And he has even cover art that goes with them, corresponds, to make it seem as if it's an album he found in a record store that just has been lost to time. And they are ridiculous and obscene. Like the one that keeps coming up to me is, I glued my balls to my butthole again. And it sounds kind of like a country song. There's one that's kind of a Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra one. This, what is it? This fucking baptism blows. Something like that. Anyway, they're hilarious, but you would never doubt that they were real.
Now who's unlocking memories?
You were at a baptism recently?
No, not the baptism.
Maybe it was the first one.
The technicality, the testicle that you had. No, a great friend of mine in middle school came to school with super glue in his pocket.
Oh no!
And it broke, and he went to get the super glue out of his pocket, and then he had this hand, pants, and leg sandwich that consisted of fingers and pants and leg and glue, and his parents had to come get him to go to the doctor to cut his pants off and because it was all a single mass of his hand in his pocket and super glue.
No,
that poor kid.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any problem with his testicles or anus, as you suggested, but certainly his hand and leg were affected. So I can only imagine the chaos when other parts are involved.
I thought you were going to tell us at the time you were putting together a model of the General Lee in the nude. Could happen. Anyway.
There was no incident when I did that.
Oh, okay.
No story.
Right. Maybe
the Starship Enterprise?
Starship Enterprise. Or maybe it was a snap tight, so you didn't need to use any glue. Anyway, Randy Travis.
I got paint all over.
Of the few country music artists that I could mention, Randy Travis is one of them because he's an absolutely icon. He's one of the biggest ones, certainly. And the guy who made his bones came up, in the 1980s. It's when he found his initial great success in 1986 with his debut album, Storms of Life. It was certified 3 times platinum. It features a number of hit songs that charted really well. And he went on to win several, in the years that followed, he went on to win several country music awards, American Music Awards, and Grammy Awards. I mean, the guy is big seller, very popular, by all accounts, a good guy. Well,
and a super recognizable voice.
That's true. Yeah, and look too. Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of crossover too. I mean, I think, as you noted, you recognize his name and his music and Kat said his voice. Even if you weren't into country music, I think you've heard enough of his stuff.
You've heard it.
I don't even know. I don't know if anything went crossover, like went to pop, but pop people enjoy that. We're not insulated from Randy Travis music.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It permeated.
And he popped up on some TV. He did some acting. He popped up on some TV shows and in some films as well. So yeah. But unfortunately, following the decades of his success, a tragedy struck. And in July of 2013, while he was experiencing difficulty breathing while working out in his gym, he was taken to the hospital where he was being treated for viral cardiomyopathy, during which he then suffered a stroke, which among the many challenges that he was left with as a result, he was left without the ability to sing. Which, I mean, what worse sort of, I guess think it's a singer suffer than that. Now, in the years after, while he's been recovering, he has made a few sporadic appearances where he's sung a little bit, but he is not obviously what he once was in his heyday. Well, with the support of Travis and his record label Warner Music Nashville, fans have a new AI-generated song from the 65-year-old singer that actually sounds good and real. And unlike any others before, it turns out that they've experimented with this a little bit, producers behind the scenes, to see if they may be able to, resurrect Randy's, not career, I guess. That sounds unfair, but creating some new music. And in the past, they've dismissed it as, sounding terrible and awful. And you can imagine why. This is a technology just in the last couple of years is really starting to come into its own in a way that's convincing and useful.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and the difference this time they attributed to the fact that the producer Kyle Lenning and Warner Music pulled 42 of Travis's tracks, stripped away everything but just the vocals, and then they got a surrogate singer in the form of country music artist James Dupree. But then the AI program, per an explanation provided by CBS Sunday Morning, takes Travis's voice and overlays it, Dupree's singing. Now that's how they described it. The result sounds like Randy Travis, so I think it may be actually the opposite of how it's sort of suggested here.
It sounds like the audio equivalent of a Dial of Destiny indie,
right?
Where
deep fakes.
They sampled all the young indie, right?
Yes.
And they mapped it over top of someone else's face. They didn't though fix his voice, so he's young indie and he sounds like this. I'm super young. I'm like 31.
Yeah. Yeah, and they, you remind me, John, in one of the technically it was the Boba Fett show that gave 2 of its episodes to the Mandalorian, and one of the Mandalorian episodes we see a young Luke Skywalker who is with Grogu, because the Mandalorian leaves him with Luke. And they did use somewhat of that, sort of voice fake technology like we're describing. But it was not that effective as this song is. And I've got a clip here that I'll play for you and everybody else so you can get a sense of what we're talking about here. See what you think.
Okay.
She had eyes like diamonds and they caught the light. Oh, but they were dark and deeper than the night. When she'd smile, out came the sun, and there ain't no more where that came from.
I don't know. I would never know that was AI.
Would never know.
That's pretty damn good. That's pretty good. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and unless this James Dupree is like an impressionist and he just impersonated Travis, that's fantastic use of AI technology.
Let me tell you what I like and don't like about this story. I like that for the artist who is no longer able to perform the way he would like to, it opens up the door for him to perform.
Yeah.
However, now that we have this, we have the DNA of it, we don't need him anymore to make his songs post-mortem.
Right.
I mean, seriously, we've now established, look, we have his vocal sample. We have a performance duplicate, a performance surrogate. We don't need Randy Travis any longer to do the work because we've now mimicked it so accurately. That's the part I don't like about it, is what the precedent that it lays and what happens in 10, 20, 50 years with that little routine of like, all right, well, let's make another Randy Travis album. It's 2112.
Yeah.
So.
Or a Prince album, or Michael Jackson, or anybody else that we lost. Sinead O'Connor, yeah.
Wasn't he involved in this, in overseeing it?
He was, right. And in fact, I don't recall whether or not he wrote it. He may very well have written the song, the music, and the lyrics as well. He has that faculty.
That's a big part of it. If you wrote it, that's part of his essence that you couldn't replicate. But he kind of trained his replacement, didn't he? I mean, kind of one of those deals where, well, now you know how to do it, so it could be done. You can delete that. No, it's going to forever be available to do. So.
Right. For somebody to do. But I wonder if there could be something put in place, some kind of, I don't know, what would you call it, where in order for a song to be made using someone's voice, that they have to be able to be involved. It has to have their approval.
Well, yeah.
For it to be legal, I guess.
Yeah. And look, this is new territory for this. This is sort of like the, how copyright was in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's the 90s. It was only then we started seeing these cases. So we're starting to see these things now, Kat, but I think there's, we have analogies in the law that we can draw to that would prevent people from doing that. And if you remember, I think it was Drake that sued somebody for using his voice on a song, on a TikTok song or something like that. But I don't know that John's suggesting that. I think, at least, the big danger is John's maybe, opened the door to discuss is the fact that if his estate approves it once he's gone, because they want the money or whatever, then that's fine. Whoever owns manages that right, and after his passing, I mean, like today, we could have, in theory, a Michael Jackson song if his estate says that's fine.
Using that technology, yeah, we could.
But,
yeah.
I mean, then it raises the other question: is like, to what extent? This is an existential question with regard to music. Like, what extent of cooperation do you need for it to be a quote unquote somebody's song? I guess any cooperation, right? Because I mean, Randy Travis, I don't know how many of his songs he wrote. He could have had a hit song that somebody else wrote. That's not uncommon. Or he may not even played an instrument on the record. He just sang it. But it's a Randy Travis song. But I guess you need something. You need something. Anyway, that song is called "Where That Came From," which not only the final result not only left Travis's family in a state of amazement, it also left other country singers in awe as well. Many folks praising the technology and being grateful that they could hear their friend be able to sing again. As for Travis, the track is more than just a new single; it's also a victory. Per a post of his on Instagram, he writes, quote, 11 years ago, I never thought I would be able to have a hand in music production of any kind. But by God's grace and the support of family, friends, fellow artists, and fans, I'm able to create the music I so dearly love, end quote.
And Skynet. Don't forget to thank Skynet.
Yeah. John, every time you praise AI, I think that's what you're doing. You're just covering your ass for our overlords to take over.
My robot overlords will look favorably upon me for my kind words.
Yes. Marcus says the song isn't great, but hearing his quote voice on a new song was great. Yeah, I think so.
Maybe it goes off the rails. Maybe it breaks into hip hop midway through, and I didn't get that part.
There's a rap break.
Yeah, in the middle.
But he does. Huh.
Yes.
And then there's going to be a video that's also created with AI where he dances with MC Scat Cat, but it's actually not MC Scat Cat. It's another Randy Travis. That's also AI.
But a cartoon Randy Travis.
Yes.
Dancing with a real life Randy Travis.
Oh,
Certainly.
no.
Yeah.
Hey, in other 1980s news, as reported by The Hollywood Reporter, Michael J. Fox says being famous was, quote, tougher in the 80s. Wasn't everything. Everything was, right?
think Michael's age is showing. My day is a lot harder to do what I did.
It kind of felt like that, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Fox is sharing his thoughts on how Hollywood has changed over the decades in a recent interview with People. Again, the magazine. He's not walking down the street. Hey, would you ask me a question? Anything.
Hey, People.
The Emmy-winning actor who rose to fame in the 1980s following his roles in Family Ties and Back to the Future.
Again,
and so
this
on.
is a Taco Bell. Why do people keep coming in
Yes.
here? It's a Taco Bell.
I just want my churros, my churro-like dessert. Anyway, Fox compared the entertainment industry now to when he got his start, decades ago. He said, quote, there's an expression I referred to when they gave me an honorary Academy Award. Somebody said to me the day before, they were talking about getting this award and being famous, and they said, you're 80s famous. I thought, wow, that's cool. 80s famous. Right. We were different.
Maybe that's not how he meant it. Maybe he meant, you're not famous anymore, dude. You were 80s famous.
Oh gosh, no.
Has been.
Perhaps it was misconstrued.
That's true. Well, among the different...
Like on fleek.
Yes. Oh, is that what that means?
No.
Among the differences cited by Fox was that celebrities of that era were tougher, didn't have social media, and were left to their own resources. Now, I don't know what he means about resources. Okay, you didn't have social media, but you had a publicist, you had a manager, you had an agent. He's a big guy. I mean, he had a lot of resources. He had money. So I'm not sure
there
exactly
were
what he's
teen
talking about.
magazines, that he was in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there were. Yeah.
Now, so that I'm not so sure about, but this I think we could agree with, because he's asked whether when asked whether it was harder to become famous in the 1980s than it is today, Fox said, quote, well, you had to be talented. End quote.
I don't know. I mean, Mickey Rourke. But really, when I think about, all I'm thinking is, it's that you couldn't be famous just for being famous, because there was not an avenue to just be famous. You had to be able to do something.
Yeah.
So to that end, right? Otherwise, they're like, who are you? Well, I'm always doing viral dances down at the Taco Bell showing people. And they're like, I don't go to that taco. I go to El Taco Bueno. I don't see them. So to that, he's right. You have to have some skill, but I think he's overinflating the requirements of fame in the 80s a bit.
Yeah, Marcus reminds us that John gets 50 people to watch him put stickers on a keyboard. So yeah, that's true. You're right, Mark.
That's raw charisma is all that is. So
Yeah. And I've lamented this so many times. It's not worth doing again. But I agree with Fox in this regard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating to compete with all those people with the stickers and all that.
everybody's got a podcast.
Anyway, yeah, I know.
Quit it, people. We have enough of them now.
Hey, all right, that's enough of that, right? All right, hey, another 1980s news as reported on Fortune.com. Well, I'm trying not to retread these things. I could just go on again and again about how much I don't care for this. I don't know how overly democratized content creation is. We don't need all of it. We need curation now.
Yeah, it's true. I just wish there was some kind of categorization or, some kind of what's the accreditation board? Like, well, at a certain point you can be an accredited whatever.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, initially when I went into college, I was going to be a journalist till I found out that all you have to do is just say you're a journalist to be a journalist. And I went, maybe I'll do something else because there's not like you're not like an accredited journalist, right? It's not like, you're a writer now. You just start writing and see if it works out. So that was, so I said, I'll do something that isn't like that. And here I am. So it didn't work out.
Yeah. That's funny, John, because I am a journalist.
Sure. Me too. Kat is.
Yes, I am too.
Everybody listening, you're all journalists. Yeah. All you do is say you are.
All right. Hey, another 1980s news as reported on Fortune.com, Gen Z job seeker refused to do 90-minute task because it, quote, looked like a lot of work, end quote. Now, that headline's not entirely fair, but I do think that this story that this raises is still worthy of discussion and criticism, especially in light of the fact that we just talk about, Michael J. Fox talking about how things were harder in the 1980s, even in entertainment, because you had to work hard. I think it's these things go together, this idea that now Gen Z is like 90 minutes of work, that's tough. Anyway.
Well,
from a certain perspective, I'm sure
Anyway, according to Fortune.com, people who have job hunted recently have probably quickly found out that getting hired is no longer as simple as submitting a resume followed by an in-person interview or two. Job seekers today are expected to prove they're the perfect fit. Now, I don't know if that's true. I could say anecdotally, knowing people that have small businesses, they want the best fit. They know they're not going to get the perfect fit.
Yeah.
But I think it's an employer's market right now, right? I think unemployment's low, but I still think there's a lot of really qualified folks out there that are looking for jobs. Maybe I'm wrong in that regard. So you can afford to take a little more time finding the right person, especially if it's a technical job or one that's, requires a certain, degree of or certain proficiency in something. Like I think this example. But
these damn kids just don't want to work. I hear over and over and over. Yeah.
And so as a result of this hiring process, now you may find yourself taking various aptitude tests, having to make a presentation, all these kinds of things. And it takes, according again to Fortune, that it takes hours of prep. Maybe. Most of the jobs I know folks that are looking for right now, I've never heard that story. There's one friend of mine who he's a programmer and he lost his job recently. He's been looking for a new job and said it's harder to get hired these days because on the spot, they'll give you a scenario and say, all right, now tell me how you would do this. And he said, well, normally how you do it is you have time in a certain environment to do a certain amount of planning and research, etc. He's like, it's not really an interview type question you could reasonably answer so that, But anyway, so here you go. This Gen Z applicant learned the hard way that pushing back on such tasks as part of an interview process could cost you the job. There's a recruiter that goes by M. Stanfield on Twitter, and they posted this tweet here. It says this: "Me, really enjoyed the call. Please see attached financial modeling test." Gen Z applicant's response is, "This looks like a lot of work. Without knowing where I stand in the process, I'm not comfortable spending 90 minutes in Excel." Me, well, I can tell you where you stand now.
Woo.
And in a follow-up tweet, Stanfield wrote, "If an analyst can't hammer that out in 90 minutes, they're not the right person for the investment analyst gig." End quote. Now, I don't know any of that jargon means. I don't know what's required of that. But I can't imagine if I'm needing a job, that 90 minutes wouldn't be an investment that I would write off, so to speak.
Right. If you want that, you're going to do it. You're going to prove yourself. you need to show that you're capable and that you really want that job. And I feel like it's actually a good way of separating out what the wheat from the chaff, right? Like, okay, who really wants this job? And are they capable? Can they even do this thing that they say they can do? So I don't think it's a bad idea.
I agree with some points on both sides of this argument as I was going through it. So I don't, if you tell me to pick, is the employer or the applicant right? I really don't have an answer, but I do get, I agree with the part that you guys are saying, which is if you're trying to get employed and you want to show that you can achieve a task and they say, well, here's a test to do, I get why that's not irrational to do. However, if the work, I think it's a lazy thing to do on the case of the employer to simply, here is a bucket that contains every skill I need you to be able to do. Come back to me when that bucket is empty, rather than actually interview me and test me on individual skills. It's like rather than see, well, can you tap dance? Can you sing? Can you swim? Can you whatever? Instead, they're like, well, go and be in this movie and then come back and we'll see how it does. Instead, find out if I have the individual skills. Don't give me the entire task that you would pay someone to do and make me do that. So I get, and I think they've come back and said that if the applicant had said, well, I can do that for you and document it well if you give me a certain fee, right, that they would have done that. As an applicant, that would not be my next question. It's like, oh, this is the test? Well, here's my hourly rate. That's a bridge you probably don't want to set on fire when you're applying for a job because you don't know how the other guy's going to react. Yeah.
I would not have thought of asking, right?
No, I would never.
And I'll do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. What if the interview alone was going to take 90 minutes? We need you to come in for 90 minutes. It's a pretty extensive interview. Sorry, that sounds like it's a lot. I mean, so the objection was spending 90 minutes in Excel doing a specific task.
And was it something that the company needed done? I mean, are they trying to get free labor? Or was it just something innocuous so that the person could show?
Yeah. Was it last year's books and see how you do with this one? Yeah, maybe. Who knows? They don't say. But as an applicant, you might feel like I'm doing work that is highly paid, skilled work. It'd be one thing to be, again, I'm in an interview. I know that I have your full attention. I know that you're engaged. Let me show you how I'm thinking through it. You don't need the answer. You need to know if I can think my way through and have the skills. So I feel like it's a lazy tactic on the behalf of the employer. So that's why I'm not fully on one side or the other. It's kind of,
There's definitely some questions. To your point, to Kat's point, we don't know exactly, I don't know technically what this financial thing they wanted them to do in Excel was. And yeah, you're right, John. The employer did say that if they had, quote, said, give me $1,000 and I'll break this deal down in amazing detail, end quote, that they would have probably paid them and hired them. So maybe it was something more, maybe it was something of value beyond the interview to the employer. Then that's not cool. Yeah, I would definitely be on the employee's side.
Yeah.
But, from other comments that on social media with regard in response to this story, that are siding with the, prospective employee or making it sound like many employers are taking advantage of people by just making them go through different hoops to prove their, worthiness. Including this one. This is from someone named Ambar Kolaskar. Says, from the applicant's perspective, they're applying to dozens of jobs. They don't have time to do hours of multi-round interviews plus tests for every potential employer, many of whom don't have the decency to send a rejection letter. Isn't that what you do when you're unemployed? You spend all your time, as much as you can mentally handle, applying for jobs. Again, now I'll go back the other way again. I don't know.
I'm not saying it's a great thing for somebody to have to spend 90 extra minutes, on top of all these things. But if you really want it, you're going to do it. You don't just decide, I don't feel like it. Hire me anyway.
The best job interview experience I ever had was a protracted job interview that was multiple phases. And the first phase was like, where'd you go to school? What do you like? And then the next phase, they brought in some more people and they went, okay, go up on the whiteboard and write me a SQL query to try to find these two fields. And I'm like, all right, squeak, 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 squeak. All right. That was 20 minutes. And then they left and more people came back and they're like, okay, here's a login page. What are all the ways you'd try to break it if you were testing it? So they were doing what I was saying, which is exercise my skills, understand how I think. It doesn't matter so much where I ended up. It's how did I get there? What critical thinking skills? what aptitudes do I have? And as I learned later, it was like, if you pass the first one, they'd bring in more people for the next one. So if they'd stopped at any point, they'd have been that you failed, right? So, but had they instead said, here, go test this website and get back to me with all the defects, I'm like, that's the job I'm trying to get. So yeah, I feel the pain of the applicant, but.
I respect that, because process is equally, if not more important in some cases, than the product. Also, they could have somebody else do this spreadsheet thing, like, oh, look, I completed, my task. Who knows?
Just have AI do it. Upload the Excel to AI.
Have Randy Travis do it. He's not singing.
Ooh.
That would be something.
You're not busy.
That would be something if the employer had, they just wanted free labor, right? They had like the job postings for like a dozen jobs. And they were all just, show me how you could take the trash out on Tuesday nights for 6 weeks.
You're applying to Subway. Yeah. Come in at lunch rush and make a bunch of sandwiches. This is your interview. Also, wear this smock.
Oh my gosh. Prove to us you can deliver this within 30 minutes.
Yes. Now, ultimately, Stanfield said that he had a different proposal. He said that, quote, the entire generation would benefit, the Gen Z generation, from being in more fistfights at a young age. A few bumps and bruises do a lot of good. Now, this isn't the only thing that Gen Z's been up to, and according to some recruiters, they're thinking employers are going to have to get more flexible. But for now, at least, recruiters are blasting some Gen Z job seekers on social media for always being late and for having a long list of demands despite their lack of experience, including, skipping mandatory meetings to go to the gym.
Well, that's self-care. I'm entitled.
Yeah. And to some degree, I'm not going to say they should be skipping important meetings, but yes, there's many things that could be improved to make sure that people are taking care of their whole self and, getting certain benefits and not being expected to just devote their whole lives to their job. But within reason.
Yeah, in that sense, you're right.
Within reason. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We've talked about before the sort of evolution from our parents to us being parents and now beyond, our children becoming of age that they could start having families. That it's evolved from, your life is your job to having a more of a balance. But balancing it between an important meeting and gym, I mean...
There's a difference of definition, right? There's I wholeheartedly agree in the work to live, don't live to work mentality. I love that. Your job is your job, but that job is not you. That job is what you do to do what you want to do, right? To do the things you like.
Yeah.
But like so many things, there's no gray. It's either good or evil, right? There's no middle ground. There's no, bend a little. If someone abuses that, well, then you push back. But why does the first little perception of encroachment equate to, whoa, you're just absolutely violating my personal time and space? Well, yes, I am. But sometimes I'm gonna, because you work here.
Right.
Yeah.
If I make it a habit, well, talk with your feet. GTFO or run it up the flagpole or see what you can get done. Right. But yeah.
You're not the boss of me. Have you seen the company org chart? Technically am.
Yes.
Anyway, however, employers and hiring managers alike may not moan about their young recruits for long, because as Gen Z becomes increasingly influential,
like that,
they're set to surpass boomers in the workforce this year.
Wow.
And what will be the youngest generation of workers are expected to shake up traditional business practices. And so hiring managers are saying, look, these companies may have to reevaluate their expectations. But, it's interesting in this paper that to talk about how Gen Z is passing up boomers. That's fine. But I did a little digging, took me all of like 2 more minutes to show that they're just but a fraction of the workforce, because Gen X and millennials are kind of even as far as what percentage they make up of the workforce. And that's over that's what the majority of it.
Okay.
So the idea that we're going to bend to a minority of Gen Zers who are boo-hooing about whatever. No.
Well, and there's the thing that parents, I hate to use young people as a derogatory. I don't mean it that way, but I will use it here and know that I do not mean it derogatorily.
Okay.
It's that thing that people say to young people all the time. Parents say to their kids, I can't wait till you grow up and have one just like you. Oh, right? Parents will say, well, young people in the workforce today, by and large, across the board, I think there's exceptions, but They are entering the workforce. They are entry level. They are just starting their careers. They have not managed people to know what it's like to deal with all of these demands with no bend.
Yeah.
So they have been taught that you are special and you are awesome and you are unique and you are fantastic. And that's all true. But you are also working alongside other people that would like to believe that same thing about themselves. They need not give up their own autonomy to accommodate you. They still have their job to do. And sometimes it might not be your favorite thing. Maybe it's going to be a meeting at 8 instead of 9.
Oh,
Right.
no. Yeah. Miss So says, I got to admit, it's weird that all of my supervisors are younger than me now.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, we are getting to an age where most people are younger than us now.
Hey.
I mean, when I go out to a store, the clerks,
Don't call me sir.
Right. Finally, in 1980s news, as reported by Rolling Stone, a mysterious 1980s song has been identified. Now, you guys may recall, because even as we talk about these stories, reminiscing about our heydays as young folks, that there was a time before the advent of the internet. And it was during that era that if you tried to identify an unfamiliar song, you had to speak with another human being. And whether it was a friend or a record shop owner or a DJ, the conversation would go something like this. Hey, do you know the song that goes like, and then out of tune humming would commence. And they would either tell you or they didn't. Well, beginning in the 2000s, we started having these apps and internet sites that were developed for this very purpose. And some of them, like Shazam, use some technology that kind of, listen to the WAV file and then search a library of, now I imagine it's, millions of songs and let you know what it is. Or websites like What's That Song? What is that song? WATZET song. What's that song? Where they rely instead on crowdsourcing to identify unknown songs. And it's simple. You just, as a user of this site, you upload the track that you want to identify, and everybody, that wants to participate tries to help. In many instances, the process is swift and songs are identified. In lots of other times, they're tougher to crack, but it wasn't until October of 2021 that What's That Song received what would become its most infamous and enduring submission from a contributor in Spain going by the handle Carl92. When Carl uploaded this file, he labeled it Pop English, indicating the genre and the language, and he wrote mid-80s bad quality. And he made a parenthetical notation, everyone knows that, which, he's offering when he thinks it might have been recorded, and everyone knows that as an interpretation of how he heard the lyrics, which, again, it's kind of grainy. And he explained that, quote, I rediscovered this sample between a bunch of very old files and a DVD backup. Probably I was simply learning how to capture audio, and this was left over, end quote. As I mentioned, the recording is grainy. It's just 17 seconds long. It seems to capture what sounds like the catchy hook of an upbeat 80s new wave tune, although the lyrics are kind of hard to make out.
Yeah, I agree.
And I have a clip. I have the clip here that he uploaded for you guys to hear. That's it. Well, it didn't attract much attention at first, but as the months passed without an identification, each proposal of a potential artist being ruled out one after another, a cultish fascination started to take hold.
That sounds fun.
2 years later, it's the most commented thread in What's That Song history, and there's now a 50,000 strong subreddit devoted to theories about the song. Fans have remixed it. Fans have used AI to try to recreate it. There's been no different, what do they call those theories? Something theories?
Conspiracy theories?
Conspiracy theories as to the source of it. Some people believe it was faked just to get the sort of viral attention. Someone believes they heard it in a McDonald's radio ad from the early 1990s, maybe. Someone did create a fake source of it, but that turned out that was debunked. Anyway, it set this website and Reddit sort of just ablaze with internet sleuths trying to be the first one to crack this case.
Now, before I read on in the article,
Yeah.
I listened to the clip that you just played. Of course, it's very muffled. It's very kind of subdued. It sounds like it's being recorded off of a television because there are
yes.
less muffled, not so dulled sounds of rustling, like someone, holding
Yes.
a microphone, or like that's very crisp and clear. They're not saying anything, but kind of a jiggling of something in their hand or whatever, like when Will rattles his paper. That's clear. So it's being recorded off of a set or something,
John, it's so funny you
Yes.
say that. And I know I know kind of what you're doing, but I don't know if you know exactly what you're doing.
Okay.
But I noticed that too.
might.
That too. There's some kind of sounds, and I think what you're suggesting is maybe it's the sound of someone recording it off of something
Yes.
else. It's not a direct recording.
Right. Certainly.
Okay.
And you can hear that they are in the room, and that
Yes.
sound is also in there and not as muffled.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Yes. Well, a Redditor who goes by the handle Cotton Underground and moderates the Everyone Knows That forum, which was launched in June of 2023 to advance the search for details about the track, told Rolling Stone that it's tantalizing to be faced with such an enigma in this day and age. Quote, why are we obsessed with it? On the one hand, it's an incredibly catchy and recognizable tune, while on the other hand, loaded with mystery. Especially in 2023, with everything digitized and music freely available, it's probably very interesting to a lot of young people that this song is seemingly untraceable.
Because young people have not experienced that like we have.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't have the benefit of going weeks and weeks without knowing the answer to something.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? You go, what the hell was that guy's name? You ask somebody, you call the damn library, you call your cousin. My uncle was there. He knows it. I don't remember. I wasn't there. Damn it. And then one day, when it comes to you, you're like, oh my God, now I know who it was.
Yeah.
Damn Randy Quaid. I should have known. Right? Whatever it was, young people don't have that.
Right. And it's driving them crazy, which is, that's got to be the phenomenon, right? That you get 50,000 people interested in solving this mystery from a song from the 1980s.
Right.
Because it's
I love this.
counterintuitively fun.
Yeah.
You think it's not fun to not know. It isn't, but it's fun to then know when you've done the work.
Yes.
Or your
Yeah.
brain did it.
It's
Yeah,
interesting that you can get them to research this kind of thing and not get most people to look into things that actually matter.
like a 90-minute Excel spreadsheet assignment.
I don't have
Get a
time
job.
to do that job interview.
Right.
I'm looking for a song.
I'm trying to figure out this stupid song. I don't have
Right.
time. What?
I need to go to my subreddit.
I'll tell you where you stand now.
Anyway, well, so after years of false leads, the musicians behind the mysterious 1980s pop tune, commonly referred to as Everyone Knows That, or EKT, have been identified. They're Christopher St. Booth, who sang the vocals on the beguiling track, and his identical twin brother, Philip Adrian Booth, who played the guitar. The Booth brothers, it turns out, had long forgotten they made it. And until the end of April, remained completely unaware that for years, a fragment of their track had become a viral hit. But once a couple of Redditors cracked the case and named them as the musicians behind it, they were deluged with phone messages and comments on social media that they couldn't quite understand at first. Per Christopher, quote, someone sent me a link to the Rolling Stone article about Lost Wave sleuths looking for the complete song. Then I heard the song and I went, oh yeah, that's us. That's how we found out, end quote.
That's cool.
The pop song, which is actually called Ulterior Motives, was recorded around 1986 and was intended to improve the fortunes of the struggling musicians. And while ultimately the Booth brothers' relationship with Smokey Robinson's producer, Gary Getzman, resulted in a record deal, Ulterior Motives was not released on an album. Instead, it was for another audience. Now back to 2024 for a moment here.
Yep. Here we are.
Among the, this is how they discover. So among the thousands of sleuths on the case, Redditors One Truth 5687 and South Pole Ball made a breakthrough on April 28th, so just a couple of weeks ago. One Truth posted that he, quote, found a video on YouTube of a scene from an adult movie that had a song which sounded very similar to EKT, end quote. Now, how he found that scene on YouTube is unclear. He noted, however, that the description of the video included the names Christopher St. Booth and Philip Adrian Booth. And after, quote, skimming 12 hours of porn with the assistance of South Pole Ball, the source of the clip was found.
12 hours, huh?
It was part skimming. Yeah, that's another thing they call it.
Yeah.
It was part of the soundtrack of the 1986 adult film Angels of Passion.
I think that's it. No, keep skimming.
Well, I just heard it though.
I'm not sure. Keep skimming.
You realize that song was like 3 or 4 scenes ago, right?
Well, you don't know if it's not going to have a reprise?
Yeah,
Come on.
right.
Keep skimming.
You're waiting for that one blonde to reprise. I know what you're.
Well, I never.
This is one of those movies that we talked about. You know, back in the 1980s, had a big budget, $10,000 to $15,000. You know, had a storyline, several scenes, music. Anyway, in the early 20s, in the 1980s, the Booth Brothers did anything for work to support their true passion as musicians. And among the various jobs they did, what seems to me to be the most disheartening one, at least in Hollywood, as far as I can imagine, is they worked the craft services table on porn shoots. Now, you think most restaurants have that no shirt, no shoes, no service sign because it's an eating establishment? What is it on a porn shoot? I mean,
I want a bagel. Well, so your hands are full. No?
Give me a second. I'll take a baker's dozen.
Hook her up.
Anyway, while working on adult movie sets, they soon learned that the producers of the film needed music, and according to the Booths, they were paid quote quite a bit of money end quote for some music to use behind the scenes. Angels of Passions, it turns out, is just one of several films that they scored in their youths. Now the brothers plan to release Ulterior Motives. And if there's an audience for it, they say they've got a whole album worth of music that's just like it. That sounds like Culture Club, Depeche Mode, George Michael, ABC, and the other bands that influenced them in the 1980s.
I think they're in for a stark reality check when they find out that people weren't in love with their music style. They were in love with not knowing, you know?
Yes.
Well, yes.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
But the brothers would point out that because they haven't been able to locate the original track, the masters for the original track, they may have to re-record it. And after noting that he, quote, sounded like a 13-year-old girl back then, end quote, Christopher notes that he might have to, quote, squeeze my balls to sing that high now, end quote.
Maybe that's what Randy Travis did.
Oh.
Maybe it wasn't AI at all.
But wait, what's the opposite? Because he has a pretty deep, soulful voice.
The secret to sing like you used to, just give a little squeeze.
Or maybe there's some super glue involved.
Yeah, cover that butthole.
Oh, my.
Now, I find this interesting. Regarding the anonymous user that I told you about that kicked off this global manhunt in 2021, Carl92,
Yeah.
he has disappeared from What's That song. And according to Philip, one of the brothers I just told you about, he heard that Carl92 went into hiding instead of admitting he heard the song in a porn.
What is he, cat? Just admit you've watched it. It's okay. We're not going to judge.
That's what I would think. And it's still, look, if you remember, Carl explained that he found this on a DVD backup while he was experimenting or learning how to capture audio. That sounds like a bullshit thing. Unless he was, it sounds like more like he was maybe ripping a porn from VHS to DVD. That's probably what he was doing.
So that brings me back to my previous question.
Yes.
When I listen to the sample, I can hear the muffled coming off the television, but something else happening in the foreground. I'm wondering what was happening in the foreground that I had previously attributed to rustling of the mic. Was perhaps rustling of something else?
John, because I'm a journalist.
So you said.
I watched Angels of Passion.
Oh,
I actually skimmed it.
I skimmed it.
I skimmed myself.
You skimmed it. You skimmed the 90-minute film for 2.5 hours.
The movie is long. It might be an hour and a half long. It's pretty long. It's over 80
I was just
minutes.
guessing it was 90 minutes.
It's over 80 minutes long. I'm
90
pretty
minutes,
sure.
yeah.
Okay.
But in the song doesn't come till towards the end. It's one of the last, if not the last scenes. I didn't watch beyond it, so I don't know if there was much more after it or not.
Oh, I'm sorry you had to go through so much to get to that part.
It turns out the rustling you hear, John, is in the film.
What?
And it's the sound of love making.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Wait. So in the movie, is it music that's playing over the lovemaking, or is there a TV or radio in the movie in the background? Because it sounds.
Kat, I have a clip. Hang on, I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. Don't close your eyes.
Oh,
It was musical accompaniment, if you will.
Now, Kat, in the porn in those days, as the cliche goes, John makes his bass sound when we talk about this sometimes. It was just it would play in the background while people are doing the action. Mm-hmm. It was like the score.
Yeah. In the room that they were in, it was like
it's not diegetic. Yeah, it's not diegetic, as if they have a radio or a record they put on. No, it doesn't exist in their world. It doesn't exist in their world. She's
asking, because the two sounds seem to our ear to have a different timbre, was one of them actually like playing on a radio on the table in the room? But no, it was not. It just happened to be a different timbre. And the other sounds,
that's
noises were much clearer,
you're hearing.
In fact.
I could picture exactly what's happening during the time. Now, what I had hoped, honestly, was I thought it would be a comical moment, or it might have helped shed light on whether Carl 92 was embarrassed or not, was if after that 17-second clip, at the 18-second mark and beyond, the song continues, but you hear, that's what I was hoping for.
Oh,
he cut it off there.
Yeah, so I could say, well, here's the rest of it that you didn't hear, that Carl didn't share. It turns out, no. Among all the scenes I skimmed through, this is the least vocal between the performers. There's not a whole lot of sounds coming out of them. The little sound we hear is generated by the friction.
You can truly appreciate the soundtrack then.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it was.
Yes.
Producer's like, we're paying for this. We got to hear the lyrics. Keep it down.
You guys, could you please keep the humping to a minimum?
Yes.
I'm trying to listen to this great track.
No one's paying to hear you guys. Now, John, you were sort of implying that, what's there to be embarrassed about these days, right? Now, I don't know, this Carl 92, I don't know what the 92 means. Maybe he graduated in high school 92, maybe college, maybe that's irrelevant. Maybe he was born in 92. Maybe that is, it's just a random number.
Maybe he was 92 and that's why he disappeared now.
He just died.
Maybe he's not around.
But
he never comes around Reddit anymore.
I say that only to say that maybe he's of a generation where it's not as easy to discuss these things. And so but nowadays kids seem to be desensitized to it. I thought, except for the fact that on this Reddit chain, there's tons of people attempting to shame him for watching porn.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
Because, and this is how I learned this phrase, because a lot of them were saying, the biggest twist in this whole story is it turns out Carl was a gooner. I was like, well, what's a gooner?
Oh.
And they were referring to him instead as Freak 92 and all these kinds of things that seem to be, again, intended to embarrass him for having seen it in porn.
Huh.
So what's a gooner? So what is it?
Do you not know?
We circled back around to this word that we started
so gooning,
out with.
it turns out, is the idea. Gooning is synonymous with edging.
Ah, okay.
That doesn't help me.
Yeah, I knew it would help John and not you, but that saved me from having to explain it.
I mean, what?
Yes. This is the first time hearing of this. John, hands above the table. Have you been gooning this whole time?
I was very anxious when you said the biggest twist in this whole story was in the... like, whoo! I wasn't sure where that was going.
Yeah, no. Gooning, Kat, or edging is the idea of keeping yourself in the sort of euphoria right before climax, but never letting yourself finish.
Oh, never?
Yeah. Miss So says Gooner is the adult parody of Goonies. So it's a wonder that John knows what it is.
Yes. How can this be?
And again, that also is looked upon negatively, or asking for a friend?
In this chain, it is. Now, it's so funny because so many Reddits are not safe for work that are, dedicated to adult content. So I don't know. I thought I understood Reddit, but I don't.
Wait, can we go back to this? Never?
Yeah. Never what?
Kat's very concerned for our health.
Never what?
Never? Like, it's just...
Wait,
you're on the edge and then...
Never!
Right.
You just walk around like that?
It's... I can illustrate, Kat. It's like this. Ready?
Oh, don't illustrate.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Dun, da, 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 da. That's all.
There you go. Forever.
That's all we have. That's it.
Okay.
Hey, yes.
That's all.
I'll take two taco supremes and a choco taco.
We are not the people. Stop telling me your personal problems.
The people.
And why do you seem euphoric,
Taco Bell.
but as if you haven't had any release? It's forever. It's forever. Isn't that what you're
That
thinking,
guy
Kat?
really likes the fire sauce.
And I need a lot of fire sauce. Well,
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know, Kat. I mean, do you mean like that session that's just how you end it? Like you just like, all right, walk away?
Yeah, you used the word never. And I was like, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
Really hung up on that. It's problematic for Kat.
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I'll dig into it and let you know. Anyway.
Nor do I, should anyone ask.
Hey, if you're curious, if you want to play a role in one of these mysteries, try helping to solve it, there's another song that's been around even longer that has yet to be identified. And I'll just tell you what it is. You can go looking for it.
We can play.
Yeah. Well, I don't have it. But it's
what if we are the ones that know the song and we just squandered the opportunity?
Oh,
that's
That's how these things
people know.
That's how they propagate. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This song was regarded as the most mysterious.
It's never. It's the never.
It's the never.
They
Yeah,
just
people
just want to be on the edge of this. And
dun dun. Oh God.
Never find out.
2 bits finally.
All right, whatever. There's another one. Okay.
What? Wait, you can't leave us hanging like that.
Oh.
We just discussed this.
Yes. So a teenager and a DJ named Darius S. recorded a song from a radio program in North German radio back in 1983 or 1984. He would record all these mixtapes by like what we did in the 1980s. Mm-hmm. Pause and unpause the record, or around the song, and try to avoid the DJ's talk up.
Yep.
Yes.
In between. And then he would label these tapes, and he and his sister have had these tapes. And it turns out he has this one, and he didn't label the song. He didn't know the artist. He put question mark in the song. He wrote what he thought they were singing. He wrote the words "blind the light," which didn't make any sense. Anyway, it turns out just a short version of this story is, with the help of his sister, he uploaded this to the internet and has been asking for help for, I don't know, several years now. I want to say they started first trying to figure this out in 2007. And it is, unlike everyone knows that, they have the full song because he has it off of, and actually it turns out he has it on a few mixtapes, and each time was like, what is this?
Oh, wow.
But you can find that one online. Again, it's referred to as the most mysterious song on the internet, or Like the Wind. Folks also call it that. But it's one of these lost wave songs that's believed to have been recorded in the 1980s and is yet to be identified. And as I mentioned, the whole 3-minute song is available to listen to.
Maybe they should have left the DJ on the recording.
Have you listened to it, Will?
No.
Maybe you're the one that knows what it is.
I have listened to enough of it to know that I don't know what it is.
You don't know.
What people think it is that it was I watched a bunch of videos on this, and one guy who seems to be on the right path is the fact that this guy was located in it was a North German radio station. I think this kid, Darius, lived in West Germany. It was during an era when we still had an East and West Germany. We had the wall separating the Germanys. East Germany was the communist area. This one guy listening to it said, I think you can tell this is a group. The singer is someone who English is not a first language, may not even know English that well. It even sounds like maybe they're singing a combination of different languages. He thinks based on their accent and maybe some other words they use, they are most likely Russian and or German, or Russian Germans or German Russians that were living in East Germany, or certainly on the communist side of the wall, that had this played by this radio station, and nothing came of it, and because of all the restrictions over there, etc. It didn't go very far. Something like that. That seems like the most reasonable theory, but no one has been able to identify a band or a singer, and no one's come forward as it being their song.
See, that's intriguing. That's really
It is.
Yeah.
It is intriguing.
Yeah, when I heard about it, I was like, I'm gonna know it. Nope, don't know it.
If you don't know it, there's probably no chance that I'm going to know it. Although I do know some obscure songs.
Yeah, we know from your one-hit wonder thing. Yeah.
That's right.
I knew that Sylvia song, so that was
There you
something.
go. Yeah.
Yes, you
I'm still
did.
living off the glory of that.
I'm going to take off the intro from our show today, so nobody knows what it is, and then we're going to just bury it or upload it to the internet and make it the most mysterious podcast.
Most mysterious podcast. And make it 90 minutes. 90 minutes long.
Oh, by the time I cut it down, Kat, hopefully it'll be under 90 minutes. So let's just say
You have to lay some grunting noises along with it to really throw off. What could this have been from?
Oh, stop.
Hey, that was so there. In an effort to get it down, that was our show. Let's stop gooning people, Kat, and bring this thing home.
Yeah. Cut it out.
And our show is brought to you thanks in part to our early adopters, Rick Parker and Karen Flieger.
Thank you.
And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success Level Patreon supporters, John Henderson, Brandon Greer, Marcus Taylor, Tony Great, Nick Guillory, Craig Coletta, and Matt Marino.
What a list.
Yeah.
What a
Thank
great
you
list.
so much, guys. We so thoroughly appreciate your support week after week. Hey, if you want to join that excellent team of gooners,
Yes.
and I mean that with the ultimate respect,
Apparently.
because you guys have me on the edge of my seat every week. I don't know. None of this, whatever. Let's get out of here. We would thoroughly appreciate you
I need
joining
a
our
washcloth
wonderful
now.
team of Patreon. Yeah, that's what we call our listeners, Miss Gooners. Yeah. Hey, we should at every beginning of the show is like, "Hey, Gooners, welcome back to another."
Hey, Gooners.
All right. Anyway, hey,
We're going to thank our early
wanna-
Gooners. Thank our Secret of Our Success Level Gooners.
if you want to help keep this show running, or you want to shut it down. If you want to shut it down, give us a lot of money and we'll just shut it down. But you go to patreon.com/1980s now.
Pay to
find
go
out.
away.
That could work.
All right. Hey, we will talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Never?